If you were alive 300 years ago, you might have seen a big flightless bird called a dodo on the island of Mauritius. Dodos were huge. They were about 3 feet tall and weighed more than 200 pounds. They had small wings that couldn't lift them off the ground, and they were so big and heavy that they couldn't fly backwards either. So, if you saw one coming toward you, your only chance of escape was to run away fast or climb a tree. But if you were slow or short, it would be game over because dodos were very good at catching prey and eating it. But dodos are extinct today. In fact, the last confirmed sighting of a wild dodo was in 1662, and fossils tell us that they went extinct around 1368. The extinction of dodos is one of the most famous examples of human activity causing a species to disappear. But there are some misconceptions about why dodos went extinct. Let's clear those up and look at what really happened to these gentle giants. When humans first arrived in Mauritius, dodos were already there. They had evolved from white-throated rails that had flown over from Madagascar, where they still live today, and evolved into flightless birds after arriving. And even though they were big and tasty, it wasn't people eating them that caused their extinction, but rather what people brought with them that caused the dodo's demise. Invasive species are a problem everywhere today, but especially on islands. That's because islands tend to have lots of species that are found nowhere else in the world, which makes them especially vulnerable to outside threats. When invasive species arrive, whether they're brought by humans or not, it can have devastating effects on native species who've never even seen a human before. And this is exactly what happened to the dodo. When Dutch sailors arrived in Mauritius in 1608, they brought with them rats, pigs, and dogs. Within 2 years, these invasive species had devastated the local ecosystem. The pigs ate all the fruit and destroyed many of the plants. The dogs and rats ate the eggs and chicks of many native species, including the dodo. This is what caused the dodo to go extinct. It wasn't people eating the dodos, but rather the pigs, dogs, and rats that humans brought with them that destroyed their habitat and ate their eggs and chicks. The dodo is often used as an example of what not to do when exploring new lands. The story goes that when the sailors first arrived, they shot the dodos that they found. But then soon realized that they didn't need to because the dodos weren't afraid of them at all. Dodos had never seen a human before, and so weren't afraid of them. The sailors could just walk up to them and take the eggs from their nests. This is where the idea that dodos were stupid birds came from, but it's not entirely true. Dodos aren't stupid, but rather naive. They simply had no reason to be afraid of humans since they'd never seen a human before, and none had ever attacked a dodo. And even if they had, dodos are surprisingly good runners who could outrun almost any human. Unfortunately, the combination of being naive, flightless, and unable to scare them made dodos easy targets for invasive species brought by humans, which is ultimately what led to their extinction. Dodos are often portrayed as clumsy, dim-witted birds, but that's not entirely accurate. They were actually quite nimble and swift despite their size. Had they lived in a time and place where they didn't have to worry about being hunted by invasive species brought by humans, they probably would still be around today. Humans have a long history of causing the extinction of species by bringing invasive species with them to new lands. In the case of the dodo, it wasn't people eating them, but rather the pigs, dogs and rats that were brought to the island that caused their downfall. So the next time you hear someone say that humans caused the extinction of the dodo, you can tell them that while it is true that humans are responsible, it was the rats, pigs, and dogs that did the actual damage. Speaking of damage, click here to watch this video on why humans are bad at exploring new lands. Or click here to watch this video on why big animals are mean. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.